Welcome back to the show. So I want to talk about Senator Manchin. So Senator Manchin did an interview yesterday on ABC, and I'm going to be honest with you. The interview was pretty good. And what came from this interview, I think Senator Manchin might be turning a new leaf. Now, I don't want to speak too soon. I'll show you guys the interview. We're going to talk about it as we watch it. But he did say some things. He talked about reconciliation, and it was in a positive way. So we might be seeing something from Senator Manchin. Maybe he just wanted to get past this first infrastructure bill, and with this American Families Plan, now he is a little more comfortable to speak about reconciliation. So we're going to take a look at that. But first off, you guys can do me a favor. Please hit the like button. It does help with the YouTube algorithm. Also, please subscribe to the channel. Hit that little bell notification. That way you'll get notified anytime we put out a video. Okay, so we're not going to waste any time here. Let's go ahead and take a look at this.
Virginia Democrat, Senator Joe Manchin. Senator Manchin, thank you very much for joining us. So we saw that moment, a rare moment,
John.
the kind of thing we hadn't seen for a long time at the White House, Democrats and Republicans talking about a deal. But obviously, there's been a lot of back and forth since then. So give me the bottom line. Is there a deal here that can get 60 votes in the Senate and that Joe Biden will sign?
I sure believe there is, John. But before I say anything about that, I want to say that from all of us in West Virginia, our hearts go out to all of the families in Surfside, Florida, for this horrendous, horrendous tragedy. I want them to know that our prayers are with them, and we're thinking about each and every one of them. So God bless. And let me just say this. On the deal, absolutely. John, this is the largest infrastructure package in the history of the United States of America. And President Biden, there's no doubt in my mind, never has been a doubt in my mind, that he is anxious for this bill to pass and for him to sign it. And I look forward to being there when he does. I can tell you there's so much good being done. And I would hope that all of my colleagues will look at it in the most positive light. They have a chance now to review it. It's got more in there for clean infrastructure, clean technology, clean energy technology than ever before. More money for bridges and roads since the interstate system was built. Water, getting rid of our lead pipes. It's connecting and broadband all over the nation, and especially in rural America and rural West Virginia. So much good in this, John.
But help me understand where Democrats exactly are on this, because we heard President Biden announce a deal. Then we heard him say that he would only sign it if the Congress also passed a much bigger infrastructure bill, the one that Bernie Sanders is working on, that he wants both in tandem. Now he's walked that back. But Nancy Pelosi has said that she's not even going to bring up your bipartisan bill unless this bigger Bernie Sanders bill also gets passed by the Senate. And listen to how Elizabeth Warren described her understanding of what's going on here.
I can't vote for some small subset that, the infrastructure train leaves the station and child care gets left on the platform. Green energy gets left on the platform. Billionaires don't have to pay, gets left on the platform. It's that all of the pieces have to move because ultimately it's one deal.
It's one deal. That's the way Elizabeth Warren sees it. It seems that's the way Nancy Pelosi sees it. So what is going on here? Are you sure progressives are going to support your bipartisan bill if they don't get a guarantee on something bigger also passing?
Well, John, I sure hope so. I hope they just look at the bill. We have two tracks, and that's exactly what I believe is going to happen. And we've worked on the one track. We're going to work on the second track. There's an awful lot of need, and everything they talked about is something that we need. John, I didn't vote for the 2017 tax cuts under President Trump. I thought they were weighted too much towards the high end, if you will. I think we need to make some adjustments, and I'm willing to step forward and make those adjustments. I've been very clear about that. But we also, John, have to take into account where we are in this country, what our debt structure is. We're $28.5 trillion. We cannot continue to add on things that we can't pay for. I've always said this, we're writing checks our kids can't ever cash. And this is going to put a heck of a burden on the next generation. So we have to be cognizant of that. But there's a lot of need out there, whether it be child tax credits, whether it be helping those kids have a start in life, whether it be fixing a lot of the human infrastructure that has fallen by the wayside, of helping middle-class, hardworking people have a chance to get ahead and enjoy the American dream. I'm all for that. To what degree, we'll see what we're able to pay for.
Okay, so I agree with what he's saying here. I think there needs to be two tracks, not just one track. I think Senator Warren is saying too much, because you can have in your mind that you want it to be one track, but have two different bills. The way that they're talking now is they want them to go simultaneously, and I just think that's a big mistake, because you will turn off some of these Republicans that will vote for this infrastructure bill, this first infrastructure bill. And that's what you need. Once you get those votes, once you pass this through the Senate, then you can start working on this second track and getting everything that you want through reconciliation at that time. But if you try to say, no, we're going to make it's going to be just one bill, or it's going to be one track, you're going to turn off some of those Republican senators. And at this point, you have it. You have the bipartisan bill, this first infrastructure bill. So go with that. Go with that, and then you can always work on that second bill. So that's just my opinion when it comes down to it.
So you know what Bernie Sanders is working on. He's talking about a bill that's $6 trillion. I know that you suggest that's a little rich for in terms of what you want. But what is your bottom line? How much more do you want? As you just said at the top of this, the bill that you're negotiating with the Republicans would be the biggest infrastructure bill in the history of the United States. How much more are you willing to add on top of that?
Well, when you look at it, John, we've paid for all this. This is not going to be added to debt. The infrastructure bill that we've done in a bipartisan way has pay for us. We've used money that we've had. We've moved money that we had not used yet to make sure that it was used in the most productive way. I think we've all done a good job. And that's what we have to look for. And when we do the next piece of legislation, I understand the concerns. I understand the desires of everybody in my caucus and also on the Republican caucus. I know we can work together. Look what we've done. Look what President Biden has accomplished in 5 months. I've never seen this type of accomplishment in modern history from a president coming in, the American Rescue Plan, $1.9 trillion. And then we do bipartisan bills on top of that. The hate crimes bill that we did, 94-1. We just did the competition with China bill in a very bipartisan way. The endless frontier. So many good things, John. We can work this out. But
what's your bottom line? The question is, this is over $1 trillion.
The bottom line.
Bernie Sanders wants $6 more trillion. Here's what are you? How far are you willing to go?
You know, it's interesting when you listen to people who interview these politicians. They're always wanting to know what's this top line number, this bottom line number. That's what they're focused on. That's the big news story. How much is it going to be? And I think Senator Manchin, again, I agree with what he's talking about here. You had pay-fors. You have it for this first infrastructure bill. They want to have some pay-fors for this second infrastructure bill. And if it pays for the American Families Plan, this second infrastructure bill, then what's the problem? It could be $2 trillion. It could be $3 trillion. It could be $6 trillion. If it's paid for, then you can move forward with it. Now, $6 trillion, obviously, that's a lot of money. I don't think they're going to be able to find pay-fors to pay for that. As far as, I mean, if you're raising the corporate tax rate and capital gains tax and all that, you're still not going to get to that number, that $6 trillion. So that's probably not going to happen. But if you focus on these pay-fors, I think this is the way that government should be run. We're now in a situation where we have politicians that just say, you know what, we don't have to worry about it. We're just going to, we are going to pass it on to our children. And I think that's wrong. I mean, there's certain situations where you do need to, in a case of emergency, during the pandemic, that's a whole different situation. You need the money to stimulate the economy. That's understandable. But once you're starting to get past that, then yes, you need to be able to manage your pocketbook. You can't just spend. And so I agree with it when it comes down to it, because all that spend is going to do is raise inflation, and then we'll be sitting in a situation where our deficit is rising even higher.
Well, let me just say this, John. Right now, I never thought that the net corporate tax should have been 21%. I always felt 25 was very fair and balanced. So I'm willing to go to 25. I think that basically
So now he's talking about the corporate tax rate. He's willing to go to 25. 28 is where President Biden wants it, but President Biden has also indicated that 25 is something that he could work with as well when it comes to a pay-for.
Capital gains should be at 28%, not at 21. There's changes that we can make that still keeps us competitive. I'm not going to be supportive in voting for things that does not make us competitive. We're in a global economy. I want to make sure that we're the leader of the free world, that we can still compete, that we can still manufacture, create great jobs, and pay good salaries with benefits. That's what I want to make sure happens. Now, let's see, when we do all that and make the adjustments, how much money do we have? This is how you run your household. It's how I run my household, or our small businesses or large businesses. How much can we invest, and how much return do we get on that investment? I want to make sure we pay for it. I do not want to add more debt on. So if that's $1 trillion or $1.5 or $2 trillion, whatever that comes out to be over a 10-year period, that's what I would be voting for.
Well, I think there's some real questions about whether or not this bill is truly paid for. But let me ask you about the bigger question here. You get hammered.
It should be, John.
You get hammered all the time, by fellow Democrats, especially progressives, who say you are constantly drawing red lines for what you'll support, and and creating limits on how far Democrats will be able to go now that you control all, the House, the Senate, and the White House. What do you say to those that say, why don't you draw some red lines with Republicans? Why don't you say, unless they come around and agree to the stuff you just talked about, bringing up the corporate tax rate again, some of the other issues, maybe voting rights, some of the other issues that Republicans are blocking, why don't you draw a red line and say, look, if you guys don't move on this, I'm going to go and endorse doing away with the filibuster?
And this is a good question. This is a good question because Senator Manchin, you see him being, stalling when it comes to what the Democrats want to do, but he also has power when it comes to Republicans because he's that deciding vote for the Democrats. So if he says, yes, you know what, I'm going to start backing the filibuster, well, that will directly affect these Republicans. And so he does have a lot of power that can swing both ways if he really wants to use it.
I mean, that's your leverage.
Well, John,
you are the man with the leverage.
First of all, and I don't wish this on anybody. John, I've not voted any differently than I voted for 10 years. I've always been very moderate, very centrist. I tell people I'm fiscally responsible and socially compassionate. I want to find that middle, and I think there's always a middle to find. That's the way I've lived my life. It's the way I've basically been in public life, and I'm not changing. I'm sorry that this 50-50 worked out and people were unhappy with it, but it is what it is. And if they think that I'm going to change and be something that I'm not, I won't. And I've been very clear. I'm willing to meet everybody halfway. If Republicans don't want to make adjustments to a tax code, which I think is weighted and unfair, then I'm willing to go to reconciliation. That's how you're able to do it. But if they think in reconciliation, I'm going to throw caution to the wind and go to $5 or $6 trillion when we can only afford 1 or 1.5 or maybe 2, and what we can pay for, then I can't be there. I'm very, very openly. And I think we can find our priorities. We can help a lot of people and lift them up. But people have to get up and make an effort too. We all have to be fighting for the same great a country that we live in, and so appreciative we're here. So I don't know what they're expecting, different than who I am and what I am, and they know me. I've been there for 10 years.
Well,
okay, so he doesn't answer the question about why doesn't he draw a red line when it comes to the Republican senators, but he did mention reconciliation, so that's good. At least he's open to reconciliation, because there was a question if we didn't know if he was going to be open to reconciliation, but it looks like he is open to it. It's just going to come down to how much can we pay for? What are the pay fors that we'll have in place to move forward with this American Families Plan?
Who I am.
Well, I think it's safe to say that you are probably the only Democrat that could have been elected to the Senate from West Virginia. So thank you very much. We appreciate.
Okay, so that was Senator Manchin, and like I said, he said some things that I'm okay with, and that's saying a lot, because if you guys have watched any of my videos, previous videos, you know that I really have been talking about Senator Manchin being the part of the problem creators caucus, or stalling and not wanting to move forward with things. Everyone's looking to Senator Manchin, and I think he enjoys that. He enjoys that power, that limelight. But when it comes down to it, he said a lot of things in this interview that I think will be okay. Will be okay with Democrats, where they'll look at it and say, okay, He's on board when it comes to reconciliation. We just need to figure out how to pay for it, which that should be the way government is run. Unfortunately, we've had years and years of government not being run that way. And I don't care if you're a Democrat or you're a Republican, anytime you're in power, they're spending. Okay, these politicians are spending. So don't get it mistaken when you see a Republican and they say, well, yeah, we need to have pay-fors or we can't add to our deficit. All politicians are adding to the deficit. They're not, none of them are being responsible when it comes to paying for these different proposals and these different bills that go through. So when it comes down to it, he said a lot of things that I think most people will be comfortable with. Most Democrats will be comfortable with. Now we're just going to have to see where it goes. And we have the first infrastructure bill. We know that. We've been talking about that. Now we're going to start hearing more about this second infrastructure bill, this American Families Plan, and we'll start hearing the different proposals come out. And it'll be interesting because that's where some of this stuff will come out. Some of the Social Security improvements, some of the possible more stimulus, the child tax credit extension, things like that we're going to start hearing about. Free college tuition for community college, free 2 years of pre-K. So a lot of things will be coming out in the coming weeks. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Hit that little bell notification. That way you'll get notified. I put out videos every day, and I will be putting out another video later today. If you guys have any questions, post them down below. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe for more, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye.